Hello, everyone. Mornings with Michael is on the air. We're brought to you for information and educational purposes only. If I have to pause to cough, I do apologize in advance, and we'll try to pause the recording at that time. But um, looks like Russia has tried to take a bigger campaign of bombardment to Ukraine. Some people have said that since the West is backing off, that there may be a bigger role that Russia takes in the future. So there was also a big drone attack on the border that Ukraine was successful, and there's a state of emergency now in Russia. So that's kind of what's happening there, and a number of people in the shipping area of the Red Sea have stopped shipping. I believe it is Shell oil. They stopped running ships through there. So that is kind of the status of the two wars that are going on. Colorado, it looks like, has put Donald Trump back on the 2024 primary ballot, while Maine has still disqualified him in the next year's presidential primary. We'll just kind of see where that Supreme Court comes down. So let's take a look where our global map, S&P 500 heat map. Share that screen. Here's where the heat map ended today, as we are after the close. Microsoft was up slightly. NVIDIA was up a little over 3%. AMD really surged. Looks like it's kind of tiny here, but we can take a look at that on the screen a little later. But I'll see if we can move it back down. AMD was up 8.31%. Most everything else was down. Home Depot was up slightly. There was few home improvements that were up, but most everything else was down. So that is that. And then see where our annuity screen is. It is not here currently. I believe the file, bring it right back up. Rotate this so we can see it. And let me share it. Close that, reopen it. And here we go. Here's our annuity sample that, as I've been saying, I believe 85 to 90% people would be better off being an annuity. You never have to worry about your 401k turning into a 201k. And by that, I mean being sliced in half in the value. You never lose money in an annuity. It always goes up a step, does not come down the step. Whereas you can see my plug is not plugged in. I'll pause this for a second. We're back online. And let's go back to the annuity. Annuities average 12.58% versus 7.57% on index investing. How do they do this? They give you a bonus on any new money. and then they give you a nice fixed rate of return. And this is how they get to the 12.58% return. So that is that with the annuities. Let me share the screen, move on to our stock indexes. Share the screen here. Amazon has been pulling back, reached a new high and then pulled back. We'll see if it pulls back to the 10-day or if it pulls back to the 50-day. So that's the story there. Take a look at the dollar. It did pop today. Dollar popped an incredible amount. What a huge gap up there was. So we got out of our copper and silver trade because of that. And let's take a look at our bonds. They popped as well. Big move on the bonds, bouncing off of their 10-day moving average, getting above the 200-day. And we'll just see, this big rise. This is why indexes, especially small caps, move down quite a bit. It's back to over 4% interest on the bonds. And let's look at the 20 years. 20-year is over 3.3. Had a big move up here. Looks like it's butting its head up on the 200-day moving average. The Federal Reserve is admitting that they can't lower interest rates probably as soon as they'd like to. So let's take a look at copper. Copper has pulled back here. It did bounce back later in the day, try to get back to its 10-day moving average. We'll just kind of watch that, see if we want to get back in or stay out. And silver had a big pullback, bounced down here, gave it a chance with a little bounce here, but pulled back again with the strength in the dollar. So we decided to get out. We made $320 or so on the Arrow copper trade, and we lost maybe 250 on the silver trade. So it's about even there. And the gold shares are pulling back as well, filled the gap. See if they get down to the 200-day move or the 50-day moving average. Look at some of the other copper plays. Yeah, they're falling. Strengthen the dollar. FCX, big fall to 200-day moving average. Vale moving as well. Rio and BHP as well. So the dividend that you're getting doesn't feel so good when you're losing this much money. So that is the story there. Let's take a look what the VIX is doing today. Let's move down the screen so we can see it. It's so low. To move our screen, the VIX did bounce quite a bit today. Popped up, up to 1435. AJ Monty believes it's going to get up to 18. Maybe up in this area. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. We'll see if it fills this gap. 99.985% of gaps fill. I guess we did find one gap over the weekend back a few years ago that did not fill. It was very tiny amount. You had to really blow it up to see it, but it did not fill. So we need to follow the charts. And let's see what the S&P did today. A little bit of a pullback. Yeah, gap down to its 10-day moving average, off 0.37%. And the equal weighted S&P 500 looked a little worse, fell below its 20-day moving average, down 0.63%. The NASDAQ Holding kind of steady there, off only 0.01%. And take a look at the equal weight NASDAQ. It's pulling back a little bit, pulling to the 10-day moving average. See if it falls anymore. The small caps are not doing as well. They look kind of ugly. It fell to through the 10, through the 20, and now it looks like they're falling to the 50-day moving average. Dow Jones look like falling. Yeah, not an inverted hammer, but I forget, a falling star on this on Friday, and so definitely fell, and the falling star has fallen through, showing that it is reversing. And we got a higher volume on this, so we'll see if this continues. A lot of this has to do with Boeing. So that is a story there. And let's go to the news. So Uber is downgraded, but it did go up slightly today, I believe. Downgraded to neutral from buy, and Lyft downgraded to reduce from neutral. So Uber was up, kind of went up. Not sure if that's a hanging man or not, but it is definitely up 0.71%. Volume is lower today, and Lyft definitely is down on that news, crashing through its 50-day moving average. And Fisker said it plans to increase the number of test drive events it conducts in the US and Europe, as the company has witnessed higher sales rates after the Ocean firsthand experience. So Fisker, its stock looks pretty lousy. It's under $1, fell 6 cents, 6% today. On to energy, industrials, and materials. Catalent said it has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire Key Knife Incorporated and certain of its affiliates for approximately 156 million in cash, subject to certain customary adjustments. So Catalent is off 0.6% today. And to financials, Altisource Portfolio Solutions files for a shelf offering of 1.6 million shares of common stock by selling stockholders. And healthcare, AstraZeneca mentioned positively in Barron, saying its shares could get a shot on the arm in 2024. Didn't do anything for it today, though. It is off over 3%, falling below its 20-day moving average. That's quite a gap down. Cigna still forecast full year adjusted operating EPS at least $24.75, and they're bouncing off of their 20-day moving average, up 0.63%. They're gaining what AstraZeneca is losing. On to technology, media, and telecom. Google has agreed to settle a lawsuit claiming it secretly tracked the internet use of millions of people who thought they were doing the browsing privately. U.S. District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers in Oakland, California, put a scheduled February 5th, 2024 trial in the proposed class action on hold Thursday after lawyers for Google and for consumers said they had reached a preliminary settlement. The lawsuit had sought at least $5 billion. Jabal lowered quarter two revenue guidance to $6.60 billion to $7.2 billion from the prior 7 to 7.6 billion because of the deal to sell its mobility business closed a month earlier than expected. guided quarter two adjusted EPS to $1.43 to $1.83 from $1.73 to $2.13. And it sold off a little over 2% on that news. JD.com, China issue says it won 141 million in damages in a year-long anti-monopoly case filed against its larger e-commerce rival Alibaba. Their stock is down 4.5%. I guess people were expecting more. And what is Baba doing? It is down 3.3% on that news. Nvidia. Some people believe this is the most important stock in the stock market. Excuse me. To launch So I'm back, and we'll take a look at Nvidia here. They're going to launch a slower version of its gaming chip in China to comply with the U.S. export controls. A product page in the Nvidia's website for Chinese customers shows that the new Nvidia RTX 4090D has 11% fewer processing cores than versions sold outside of China. And Nvidia went up on the news about 3%. So that's the story there on our news for the day. So let's go take a look where the market was moving today. Synopsis moved up 3%. Pretty good volume. Earnings aren't for 36 days. Had been pulled back quite a bit here, and now it's moving up. And we can look at Cadence, kind of in the same sector. It was moved a lot stronger, didn't pull back as badly as Synopsis, and we got huge volume over here. One of Warren Buffett's investments in Brazil is moving up pretty strong. Highest volume in the base since the base over here, up 3.3%. We got Goldman Sachs earnings up 65%, pretty good volume, and it's trying to move up here, bouncing off the 20-day moving average. Retreated once it hit the 10-day moving average. We'll see what it can do the rest of the week. Encompass Health bounced up, pretty strong move, 3.54%. Earnings were supposed to be 23% last year. Oddity Tech, recent IPO at $35, had a big swoon, and now it's kind of moving up. GCT, Giga Cloud Technology had a big pullback here, but it's had a huge move. It's kind of doubled from 8.7 to a little, what is this, 26? Pull back to 20, and now it's bouncing off the 20-day moving average. I think this is something definitely to put on your watch list. IDCC up, and then it's closed on its low, which you never like to see. Huge volume, 79% earnings increase in 2023. It's supposed to retreat a little bit at 38% this year. So we'll see how they perform. Lennox International. Guess it wants me to click on this. Bounces off the 50-day moving average, up 0.73%. Finally, O'Reilly Automotive got a big bounce today. Nice volume. Got a few good days of volume in a row. So we'll see if it can break out to 1,000, over 1,000. So that's what we're looking on the up. On the down, not sure why this is taking so long. But in the meantime, let me leave. We got, take a look at the Bitcoin ETFs. There's 11 of them. I guess I need to share this. Go back to Zoom. Here we go. ANSYS, in the meantime, ANSYS has pulled up and pulled back, as you can see, about 5.5%. Here's Boeing, which we mentioned to had a big impact on the Dow. Look at this cascading losses. If you're an employee in the stock plan, you are not a happy camper right now. Down another almost 8% today. Vanguard Growth Fund is down. I believe I was supposed to bring up Volt. Oh, the C looked like an O next to the Vanguard long-term capital bonds fall with interest rates rising. Yeah, so both of these are bonds falling in value with the interest rate rising on the bonds. Medifast continues to lose, down another 9.15%. Weight and disease management products. Tech Target falls a little over 2%. I believe they're in the same competition as the trade desk, which actually fell even further, almost 5%. International flavors and fragrances fell 0.88%. Delta Airlines fell 2.6% on a negative 14% earnings report. And BKE, Buckle, down pretty strong, down close to 8%. So there we have that. Well, let's take a look at some movements in my personal portfolio today. As I said, I got rid of ARM, starting to pull back here. It might do okay, but I don't want to go any closer to my buy point and lose money. So I'm happy with the 3.5% profit. I still wanted to stay with the semiconductors, so I moved into Broadcom. And what did I do with Broadcom? Did a February 11, looks like 1100. Did 1120, no, 1110, 1120 spread. So it's up almost 10% since I bought it earlier this afternoon. It had pulled back and then it bounced back again after that. Also bought Birkenstock. They have their earnings in 2 days. IPO, like it had a double bottom here and had a strong move. It gapped up in the morning, pulled back, and then moved up again further. So that was up about 1% in buying the stock. BLTE pulled back slightly and then bounced higher. It's up about 28% since the purchase over in this area. Kind of announced this all in the show. Kava, we talked about the IPO base, double bottom here. Told everybody about buying around 42. Went up to 54.86 and pulled back to, I think it was 48 or 49. And then I added the shares that I had sold at 52 back, went up to 58. And then I sold everything at 52, told everybody that I thought this was going to go lower. Went from 52 to 29. And then when it came over here to, I believe it was 32, I'm not sure. Yeah, it was 32 over here. Said I'd get back in, pulled back over here to 31. I added 500 more shares, and that's the story there. Kava is up about 31% on that purchase. DNN, Denison Mines, uranium has gone over $100 a pound purchase. Power plants need uranium to power the power plants, and they'll pay almost any price. And so one other account we had here, we bought it at $1.15, and we've just held it for a few years, finally getting the kind of move that we wanted to see. And recently we bought this at $1.71 over here. And then we move on to ELF. We've been talking about, we bought the option at 120. After reading the analyst estimate, he felt this was going to move a lot higher. And he had been very adamant, even way back here, followed up on his, converted the options, and it just continues to rise. It was, I believe it went up 4 to 5% today. And this position is up over 31% since our purchase. 4, we had a 74.78 option. We had 8 of them on the spread. We closed out 4 of them. We'll just see if this can get any buying attention or if we need to close out the rest of them. Fresh got a little bit of a pullback. They're still up 21% on the option. We'll see if it comes back down to the 10 and 20-day moving average. It's off 1.3%. GitLab. So we bought this on this day over here at 55. Gapped up on the earnings. It's held the bottom of the gap, had a little bit of a pullback, and it's bouncing off the 20-day moving average. So we added another 100 shares today. So we have a nice little gain in there. ILT nearly scared me out. Had 1,100 shares, pulled it back to 500. It did come down to the bottom of the gap. That's kind of what scared me. When it popped up here, I added those shares back to have 1,100 shares, and we're just kind of holding. Meta, we sold. We have 200 shares of Meta. We sold 2 call options today at 190 or 390, and we'll just kind of see if that holds into February. But we want to hold the shares and just see if we can make a little money on the options market when we're holding the shares. Microsoft. We have, let's see, where did we put this in? This print is pretty tiny. I believe it was 383.90. So it looks like we're going to have to do a roll tomorrow to do 390 to 400. We'll just see how that reacts. But Microsoft has a nice $260 gain in about a week. So that's not too bad. Take our profits and roll into the next one, next leg. So we sold off the silver action. We didn't really like this action above all the moving averages. We're kind of waiting for a pullback as this one is kind of volatile. It did pull back. I believe we have a price of 314. So we'll just continue to watch. It's only for 5 shares, but we'll see if we get filled. We have 1 share of Tesla. Kind of bounced today, up 0.47%, but it's still well under the moving averages. It's moving up a little higher after hours. So we'll just see what the rest of the week brings. And Zscaler was down earlier, and then it bounced back up to 232. And I do have a number of call options open. So we wanted to try to make a little dividend money on Kava. So we have 15 options open on Kava if with a strike price of 55, a price limit of $2.50. Right now it's at $1.50, so it need to move up a little bit. We have 4 on GitLab at a price of 5. Right now it's 350, so I'd have to continue. The strike price is 70. And we have on Samsara, we have 11 short calls at price of 40 at $3. Right now it's $1.3750. So that is all of our action. And let's take a look at our ETFs, see what they've been doing. First, the financials. We've got a gap down in the financials today. Goldman Sachs couldn't save the day. Wells Fargo reported on Friday, pulled back quite a bit, and then it gapped down again today. Looks like it's trying to bounce above its 50-day moving average. Citibank pulled back as well, and I believe JP Morgan, when they announced, yeah, they had a big strong move down and they gapped down again today. Communications pulled back a little bit with Meta's pullback today. Google trying to move higher and pull back as well. Energy is going kind of in the wrong direction. Energy oil prices continue to fall. Look at natural gas pricing, gap down 15% today. That's just amazing. Real estate pulling back to its 20-day moving average. Utilities falling below their 50-day moving average. Biotech trying to bounce off of their 20-day, but they had a huge gap down today. Look at IBB and biotech, similar action. Software holding steady. Technology actually moved higher today. Infrastructure is pulling back as well. Semiconductors moving up. NVIDIA is a big chip there. Rambus also looks strong, although it did pull back 50% from its move today. Pretty good volume. Airlines. Saw Delta Airlines pulling back. So Ryan, I believe, is the only one that is really doing strong. They bounced off 50-day moving average and moved higher, up nearly 2%. Leisure out of the office is pulling back as well. Industrials pulling back. Building materials, Home Depot, Lowe's falling as well. Mining and materials should be down, and they are. Reached this peak, and then they've really pulled back. Home builders, the rise in bonds, and bond interest rates actually, they gapped down to their 20-day moving average today. And Fidelity Blue Chip Growth is holding steady, but you can't get into that. So let's look at FANG-U. And it's pretty similar to Fidelity. So that's our show for today. Hope everybody's had a great start to their Monday. Even though the market was down, the companies that I've been talking about have helped portfolio move ahead. So Keep it here on Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. It's your responsibility for your own due diligence, where we help you make suggestions for managing your own portfolio. Have a great Monday.